Hello friends, I'm Ashish and I'm here to talk about retirement planning today at Crystal.ai, how we go about thinking about it. And I have with me Shesh, who's a coach and mentor. I personally look up to him for many things, inspiration across many aspects of life. And he's here today to spread the word about how one should think about retirement, why should they think about it, when they should think about it. So I'll let him introduce himself and talk about this aspect more in detail.
Thanks, Ashish. Hi, my name is Sesh. I've spent about 35 years working in the corporate world. I retired about 2 years ago, and in the last 2 years I've been primarily focusing on mentoring professionals, mentoring startups, and advising and coaching small and medium enterprises. I believe, and I'm here because I believe that what Ashish is talking about is critical. It is an area which very few people give thought to, and it is something which we ignore at our own peril.
That's great, Sesh. So I can tell you from my own personal experience that I myself started thinking about a retirement plan that I should have maybe only about a few years ago. I'm like 41, and I think at the age of 35 or 36 I thought about it. And in my earlier, younger days, I could have done it, but it's something that is like you think it's 35, 40 years away. So how does one think about something which is like 40 years away, or is the right time to think about it is when it's 5-10 years away? How should one think about this retirement aspect itself?
See, I think one of the main points here is that most human beings, at least most of the people I know, they don't understand the time value of money. And that is terrible, because once you understand that, the moment you understand it, you say, oh my God, I should have started planning when I was 21.
Right.
But most of us don't, and I'm hoping that people like you, people like companies like Crystal.ai actually spread that word, evangelize that very important concept.
Right.
You started at 35, I started at 45.
Right.
And in those 10 years, I would have probably, given up an enormous amount of money which I could have had today and been much more comfortable.
Right.
So I think if there's some way people can understand how important it is to save even small amounts, $200, $300, $500 a month, but start in their 20s, then what happens is when they are ready to retire, or even earlier than they are ready to retire, they have the comfort of having a solid corpus, which will allow them to lead a much more comfortable, much more relaxed, much more sort of worry-free life.
Well, that I agree. So the earlier you start, the better it is. It's evident from the fact that you can build a much larger corpus over 20 years by just starting to save some in one of your side pockets of your wallet and just keep investing. And also at a younger age, I think you can take a little bit more risk because you have a 30-40 year horizon. So you can go with, let's say, an equity heavy portfolio initially, but as your age progresses, then your portfolio has to become more and more what I call as boring. Now this boring is not Elon Musk's boring company which builds tunnels and things like that, or the flamethrowers that he does. But this is actually, boring to me means that the portfolio is, you look at it and like nothing is happening except that some income, some coupons, some dividends are just coming. Other than that, it doesn't move, it's a snail.
I agree, and this is something in I don't know whether this is part of the West. It probably is worse in the West based on what I'm reading. But I think it's across the human condition that we don't understand this till it is too late. We start thinking of retirement probably, you're actually one of the earlier guys, 35 is early. Most people start thinking of retirement and retirement planning in their late 40s, possibly early 50s. Then they have a 10-year runway, and they're playing catch up, and they're getting worried, and they're their lives, the years when they should be enjoying themselves, they're actually really concerned and trying to sort of collect money and trying to sort of build a portfolio, which is which causes a lot more angst than it should.
So you think that if the later you start, the more likely it is that you're going to take a much more riskier portfolio?
Oh, I think so. I think so, because you know that the timeline is short, right? You know that then also you at that time you say, okay, I need so much money.
Yeah.
The amount is large,
Yeah.
the time is short. So you're going to be doing things which you're not going to not supposed to be doing. I agree. That is something which, and so I've been talking to my daughter and son-in-law. They are in their mid to late 20s, and I've been saying this, and in fact I guided them to you. The idea was to get them to start planning now.
Right.
Makes sense. And in the last year and a half, they're seeing the advantages of that. They're seeing steadily how it's in a much more relaxed and much more calm manner. They can gradually build their retirement funds or their overall corpus.
Right.
So now they're actually having dreams of, oh, by the time I'm 45, we're going to retire.
Right. So actually that's interesting you say that. So it's about time horizon. So usually people start thinking of retirement when you're like, let's say 10 years away from retirement, like you mentioned, and things like that. But in today's world, things are changing so fast. Like take this crisis, the COVID crisis, right? So many people got laid off. So many people have just suddenly no inflows, no income coming in, and it's totally unpredictable. And if you don't have a safety net, then you start getting a lot of angst, anger, or whatever emotions, especially in investments.
You're absolutely right. So it's not just about retirement; it's about security.
Correct.
Right? Security through your working life.
Yeah.
And which then continues into your retired life. So it is much more than just retirement planning. It is essentially planning to ensure that you feel secure, that in case of issues, as you said, in case of black swan events, you're still able to cope.
Right.
You're able to go past those situations and and sort of survive and thrive during that period and continue.
So do you think that retirement age, or let's say the security, it's a perennial thing, or should someone think about, hey, I will retire at 60, so I'll start thinking about retirement planning at 40, and 20 years is a good horizon? Is there something like a good horizon, an ideal time, or how should you think about it? We don't know how long we're going to live, so what do we do?
Yeah. See, when I started, I still had many colleagues who today have stayed on in the same company that they joined.
Yeah.
I can't say that, you are probably, 15 years behind me. I don't think you've seen that very much. And 15 years behind you, I don't think that's going to happen at all. 2 to 3 years in a job is probably considered a long amount of time, And plus now, with all these changes with the gig economy and with, working out of home, with, the world is changing so much more than it. It's changing very much from where we were. So I think it's all the more important now to be able to build cushions, to be able to build safety nets.
Right.
Much earlier, In my case, I knew that for the first 10-15 years, I would have a job. Right?
Yeah.
There's no question about it.
Correct. Yeah.
Today, I don't know whether that same belief remains.
And that same level of job security is not there.
So I think it's more important to start earlier, even more important to start earlier today than it was, when we were young.
Right. And how should one go about building a portfolio? Is it a framework, an asset allocation? Like what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, I don't know about you. I don't know anything about finance, so I need somebody to help me build that. So that is why I choose an advisor like Crystal.ai, because I don't know enough. I don't know 90% of the instruments. I know the basic stuff.
Right.
There are stocks and there are shares and there are bonds and stuff like that. But beyond that, I don't know anything. I don't know what kind of time horizons I should retain certain instruments.
Right.
I don't know what structure the portfolio should have.
Right.
I think it's very important, at least if you are a person like me who does not have very much financial knowledge, to be able to identify a good advisor and, of course, not hand over, not abdicate the responsibility, but at least, have the have the knowledge and the capability available to you to be able to build your portfolio.
Makes sense. No, I agree. It's almost like having, we call ourselves money doctors, right? So you need to have a doctor if you're, not to at least have someone at your beck and call. And similarly,
because I know, because when I tried doing this myself when I was in my 30s, and I have share certificates that I can use as wallpaper.
No, great. So anything, Sesh, I mean, this is great. Thanks a lot. So any message, anything you'd like to tell our viewers so that this message goes to especially in the young crowd that they should remember and get a little bit more serious about retirement planning and job security or security in general.
Okay, this is what I would think. First is start young. Start as young as you can. And it's not a big chunk. Let's say you're earning $5,000. Keep aside $250, $500. It's not, we're not saying that, sacrifice your youth, shove everything into your savings and stuff like that. No, just take a small chunk of it, enjoy the rest, and just build this gradually. That is one. Start early. Second is seek advice. I mean, at least from my point of view, yes, or either you learn a lot, either you invest in learning, or find a good advisor who can guide you.
Right.
Third is, regardless of whether you have an advisor, become increasingly financially literate.
Makes sense.
Which I didn't do very much. Fourth is keep close track of what is happening. Don't abdicate. Make sure that you're part of every decision that goes on. And fifth is that you will see that your targets change. When you're 25, you might say, "Oh, $1 million is enough." When you're 35, $1 million is far from enough. And so those targets will keep changing, but that's okay. You will keep modifying and morphing your goals and your portfolio and your strategy. And finally, I'm going to take a statement which was meant for something else, but reword it as, live like you will die tomorrow, but invest like you're going to live forever. Because the fact is that we don't know when we are going to, our lifespans are growing. And when I was originally planning to think of my retirement fund, I said I will live up to probably 75 or 80. Now 100, 110. So that means you have to survive for those additional years without becoming a burden on anybody. So it is far more important today to plan as if the horizon is much longer.
Thanks a lot, Sesh. I think that's great. So I hope our viewers will remember these 4 key messages that Sesh just gave, and hope you found this video useful. Thank you. Thanks, Sesh.
Thank you, Ashish.